So in this video, I just want to show you the rotation I used with Hilda in the XP lane. Hilda is one of the best heroes for invading, so you need to maximize that advantage. I'm only 4 stars away from Mythical Immortal in this game, so I can say that this strategy is effective. I just wanted to share it with you so that if you ever use Hilda in the XP lane, you can try this out. So as you can see, the first thing I did was cut the lane, and it's very important to do this. You should buy boots immediately to make it possible. My emblem here is the tank emblem with Concussive Blast, to help clear the minion wave faster. After that, there are a lot of things you can do, but your main priority should be disrupting the enemy jungler, especially if they're an assassin. Invading with Hilda is very simple. While you're rotating, the enemy XP laner is still busy clearing the minion wave. Hilda's early game damage is really strong, so the enemy jungler will struggle if you play like this. Their XP laner will be too far away to help, giving your team a huge advantage and creating a lot of space for your jungler and marksman. Since most XP laners nowadays are tanky and don't scale quickly, you can afford to leave them behind. You don't even need to worry too much about the second or third minion wave in the XP lane. What's important is disrupting the enemy jungler. And since Hilda deals high damage even without items, you can easily take them down. Watch what happened to the enemies here. They could barely fight back because, if you check the map, their EXP laner was just clearing minions in the bot lane. Basically, you're sacrificing your lane in exchange for giving space to your jungler and gold laner. Watch how I also create space for our gold laner. The enemies couldn't do much here because Hilda was just healing in the bush while getting shields from time to time. On top of that, with Revitalize, we could overstay in the enemy jungle camp without any problems. But take note, this doesn't always work and isn't something you can do all the time. It's a high-risk, high-reward play, but if done right, your jungler and gold laner will definitely be happy. This was just a solo rank game. I only did this because I knew the enemy EXP laner had a slow push, meaning they couldn't easily take down my turret. Most of the time, your matchup in the EXP lane will just stay there anyway. Imagine being the enemy jungler in this situation. What would you do to counter this strategy? You'd probably get really frustrated, maybe even consider quitting ML for a while. However, this is harder to pull off if the enemy jungler is someone like Suyu or Julian and their roamer is Hylos. It's extremely risky, but when it works, it's totally worth it. Because of what I did in the early game, the enemy jungler's strategy and planned rotations were completely ruined. It's like I became the roamer in this game since I was the one constantly rotating and disrupting the enemy. Though I did overextend a bit here and couldn't quite handle the enemy's damage, so I had to use the secret recall technique. I suggest you try this in a ranked game if you're mythic and above. Then come back here and tell me the result. Was it successful or not? If not, why? Which heroes gave you a hard time? When doing this strategy, even if your jungler doesn't follow you, as long as they keep farming and don't waste the space you're creating, it's still a solid play. I've done this multiple times in ranked games, and I won every time. In this video, I'll show you 2 games so you won't think it was just luck. One had a really good jungler, while the other was just average. He was still silver despite all the space I gave him, but in the end, we still won. In this first game, we were already inside the enemy base even before the 8-minute mark. You could argue that it was just because my teammates were really good, but still, the impact of what I did in the early game played a huge role in getting us to this point. So we finished this game in less than 10 minutes. It was really easy to do, right? However, if your opponent is good at pushing, the risk of losing could be higher. Remember, I was just experimenting with this strategy. I actually reached 97 stars after this game, and in the next match I won again. But that time I used Badang. So in the next game I'll show you, I'm already at 98 stars. So in this game, my lane opponent was Phoveus, who is also slow at pushing and clearing minion waves. I did the same strategy. I cut the lane. Phoveus couldn't kill me since he didn't have much damage yet. After that, I immediately went to the enemy's buff. As you can see, no matter which buff the enemy started with, I could still invade because I cut the lane. By the time I got there, He had already taken the purple buff and was now at the red buff. The enemy jungler here was Alucard, but that didn't really matter. Here, Alucard still tried to secure his buff while Cho attempted to counter my play. He also tried to disrupt our jungler, but of course Hilda is much better at invading. Plus, since I'm just the EXP laner, we still had a roamer who could assist. Meanwhile, the enemy's EXP laner, Phoveus, was still busy clearing the bottom lane. I was able to pick off the enemy jungler here, and we even secured his red buff. He was probably really frustrated at this point since his teammates didn't seem to care. If this ever happens to you, it's better to just let the buff go instead of forcing it. Try farming the green buffs instead, then consider rotating to the enemy's jungle camps to recover. Here I went back to my lane and cut the wave again. After that, I rotated to the gold lane since I couldn't catch the enemy jungler. He had just finished securing his red buff. The enemy marksman had recalled and was on her way back to her lane. So I waited for her in the bush. She had no idea I was there. I think she was probably wondering why I was even in this area since my lane was so far away. The enemy team was really struggling to fight back because their jungler got shut down early and never recovered. The only one who could somewhat keep up was Phoveus, since he was left alone in the lane. And this is exactly the risk I was talking about. But it's not a big deal since Phoveus can't carry the game alone.
Icefield warriors, don't bring shame upon our ancestors' glory.
Here comes the final team fight of this game, and the enemy team is at a huge disadvantage.